The journal was found wedged inside a rotting teak chest, its leather cover swollen black from decades of moisture. The handwriting inside belonged to a French cartographer named Henri Mouhot, a man who had survived fever, starvation, and the jungle's unrelenting cruelty. His final entry read only this: "The river does not forgive curiosity." He was dead within days, consumed by a hemorrhagic fever so violent that his traveling companions refused to touch his body. He was 35 years old. He had come to map the Mekong. Instead, the Mekong mapped him. The river begins somewhere in the frozen highlands of Tibet, born from glacial silence so absolute it feels sacred. As the Mekong descends southward through China's Yunnan province, it begins to transform, narrowing into furious gorges where the current does not flow so much as detonate. Walls of limestone rise hundreds of feet on either side, where the roar of white water can be heard before it can be seen, and where the spray creates a permanent fog so dense that boats have navigated blind for centuries. Ancient Chinese records describe this stretch as Tianxian, heavenly peril. Not heavenly as in beautiful, heavenly as in godly punishment. By the time the Mekong crosses into Myanmar and Laos, it has become something else entirely. The gorges release their grip and the river widens, deceptively calm on the surface, murderous beneath it. Whirlpools form without warning, rotating with enough force to submerge entire wooden vessels in seconds. The colonial French expedition of 1866, led by Francis Garnier and Ernest Dudar de Lagrée, recorded losing 2 supply boats in a single afternoon to currents they described as invisible hands pulling from below. Neither boat had struck a rock. They simply vanished downward. The expedition had launched from Saigon with enormous ambition to prove the Mekong was a navigable trade route into China's interior. What they found instead was a river that seemed architecturally designed to kill. The Cone Falls in southern Laos, a cascading complex nearly 10 kilometers wide, represented the single largest waterfall system by volume anywhere on Earth. There was no passage through it. There never had been. Local communities had known this for 1,000 years. The French had not asked them. Long before European boots touched the riverbank, the Mekong had already accumulated centuries of fear. The Lao and Khmer civilizations built their cosmologies partly around the river's supernatural violence. The Naga, enormous serpentine water spirits, were not mere mythology. They were explanations. When a fisherman drowned in still water with no apparent cause, when entire villages lost their grain supplies to sudden flooding that arrived without weather, when the river ran red during the monsoon season and carried the smell of iron across rice paddies for miles. The people who lived alongside the Mekong understood that they were guests, temporary ones. The monsoon season transforms this river in ways that no photograph has ever truly captured. Between June and October, the Mekong can rise 20 meters in a matter of days. In Cambodia, the hydraulic pressure becomes so extreme that an entire tributary, the Tonle Sap River, reverses its own flow and pushes water backward into the lake it feeds. Imagine standing at the riverbank in July when the current is running at 60,000 cubic meters per second and understanding in your bones that you are watching something alive. The jungle margins along the river's lower banks harbor a biological catalogue of suffering that early explorers described in their journals with the desperate precision of men who knew they were losing. Malaria, dengue, typhoid, cholera, blooming in flood-churned water sources, bamboo vipers that strike from branches overhanging the riverbank at face height, giant freshwater stingrays documented at over 600 kilograms, capable of driving a barbed spine through a wooden hull, Irrawaddy dolphins that local fishermen still refuse to harm, not out of sentiment, but out of genuine fear of what has historically happened to those who did. The Upper Mekong, particularly the stretch through the Golden Triangle where Burma, Laos, and Thailand converge, consumed people with a consistency that generated its own folklore. River traders vanished. Missionaries were never recovered. In the early 20th century, entire survey parties dispatched by the British Indian Survey simply ceased to exist. Their last reported positions marked on maps with careful pencil. The next entry always blank. The jungle along those banks is not merely dense. It is sovereign. It does not permit investigation of what it keeps. Garnier, who survived the 1866 expedition only to die violently in Vietnam 5 years later, wrote in his published account that the Mekong was not a river in any commercial or geographic sense. It was, he said, a threshold, a boundary between the world that could be known and the world that refused to be. He did not mean this as poetry. There is a reason the Mekong has never been fully mapped, a reason that the communities who have lived along its banks for 3,000 years still make offerings at the water's edge each morning before fishing. A reason that experienced river pilots still keep charms tied to their steering mechanisms and still refuse to travel certain stretches after dark. The Amazon is vast and deadly, but its dangers have largely been catalogued, named and classified. The Mekong's deepest dangers have not been, because some of what this river protects, it has protected so completely and for so long that we no longer even know what to call it. Henri Mouhot never finished his map. The river already had one.